Hi everyone, welcome to this next session of PMP drag and drop questions. It's so good to have you here. If you've been following from the beginning, then we've gone through so many and really gone through so many definitions, so many order and processes of the project management process, and a few scenarios and problem solving. And it's just been such a great way to prepare for your PMP exam and also to get up to speed and review before you take the actual exam. These have been taken from the PMBOK Guide 7th edition, the Process Groups Practice Guide, and the Agile Practice Guide. And I'll make this download available for students in my Udemy course, which is currently the highest rated PMP Udemy course, which is just absolutely fantastic. So do check that out. It would be absolutely fantastic to have you there. Let's get into the first question. Prioritizing using a dollar benefit and versus the time it will take to deliver. That sounds like a prioritization matrix, but we might have to come back to that, I'm not sure. So that could be a few things. Maybe the cost of delay? Let's check. Oh, it could actually be the cost of delay. Let's go with that one. I think that's more likely. The dollar benefit we use, and then we check that against how long it's going to take. So how long that benefit is going to be delayed. Perfect. Okay. Thank goodness. Prioritizing by must have, should have, could have, and will not have. That's our Moscow way of prioritizing. And evaluating and ranking options based on different criteria that we choose. That's our multi-criteria decision analysis. And multi-criteria, this is such a great way. If you've got a really complex project or lots of complex criteria, this is a fantastic way to prioritize. Find yourself a good template for that one. I have some templates for this as well, but that's a really good way to do it. And prioritizing by effort and value, that's going to be our prioritization matrix. Okay, let's quickly check. That seems to be correct. How did you guys go with that one? A good way to start us off. Estimating methods. Great. So we're prioritizing, we're estimating, all very important things to do. The team estimate on the effort. High and low estimates discuss and then re-estimate until a consensus is reached. That is our wideband Delphi estimating. Now, just as an aside, that's also planning poker in Agile. And planning poker was based on wideband Delphi estimating, basically. So we discuss the high and low, discuss their reasons, and then we try and form a consensus based on that. Now, does it have to be perfect? No, but you'll find that's a really good way to get pretty accurate estimates. Involving estimates the size or effort of tasks by comparing them to the smallest one. It's comparing them, they're relative. And we also do this in Agile, where we have a small user story and we give that one story point. And then every other story after that is relative, is sized relative. So, and it usually goes in the Fibonacci number sequence. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and then 13, and so on and so on. I won't go into that in full detail, but that's just a brief overview of relative estimating. A weighted average of 3 estimates. That's going to be, now when it's a weighted average, we have the optimistic 4 times the most likely. So it's weighted towards the most likely. And then the pessimistic, we add those all together and then divide it by 6. That's our PERT or beta estimating. Similar to our 3-point estimating that we've seen before. Using something similar to estimate, we're using an analogy. It's analogous estimating. And that's from page 178 in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition under estimating. How did you guys go with that one? All right, wonderful way to kick this one off. Really, really good job. James needs to see project activities visually as bars on a calendar. He is looking at a Gantt chart. Dylan has brainstormed dozens of ideas and needs to group them into similar categories. He needs to find their affinity to each other. Hannah needs a count of defects on a bar chart so she can find the most occurring ones. That is our histogram, basically similar to a bar chart. Matthew has a complex defect and needs to find the root cause. He's going to use a cause and effect diagram. And what else do we call a cause and effect diagram? It could be a fishbone diagram or an Ishikawa diagram under the name of the person who created it. And MIR is sequencing project activities and finding their dependencies. We can do that with a schedule network diagram. And all of those have come through correct. How did you guys go with that one? PMBOK Guide 7th edition, page 188, visual data and information. Now keep going. If you're not getting these correct, you can always review them. It's always here. You can always come back to it. Let's see what we've got next. A description of the project and the product scope and major deliverables. Okay, this is all of our wonderful scope items. That's going to be our scope statement. It's just can be a sentence and then a list of features, just the major deliverables. Using a visual example of the work decomposition into work packages. We're taking those high-level deliverables and we're turning them into smaller and smaller pieces. We're decomposing them. That's going to be our work breakdown structure. A matrix containing any additional attributes for each of those work packages. That's going to be our work breakdown structure dictionary. We had resources, cost, duration or time estimates, quality details, who signed off on it, all of that extra information. A piece of work or functionality small enough to be assigned to a person or team is going to be our work package. And that's what we're breaking things down to, that smallest level, a work package. But in Agile, if we're breaking down features, now notice it's the same concept, it's a feature, and we're breaking it down into user stories. We're calling it a different thing, but the concept is exactly the same. User story mapping. In fact, user story mapping, we're doing it on the customer journey as well. So maybe we've got a customer step-by-step little flow chart. They take this step, next step, and then we break this feature down into those user stories as they go along the customer journey. That's customer story mapping. Let's quickly check. Okay, that is correct. Page 236, scope baseline for all of those scope items. Halfway through, now an agile, predictive, or hybrid project processes, ceremonies, and tools. Oh, this is great. This is the project manager talent triangle. And you'll see this in the process groups practice guide. You need ways of working. Now, what if we have collaborative leadership, conflict management, team building, and effective communication? Those are our power skills. And we need all of these three things to be a good project manager, by the way. Understanding value priorities, making good business decisions, good commercial decisions, making sure we're delivering that business value, and continuous improvement. That's our business acumen or business knowledge. Let's quickly check. And that is great. Project manager competencies under page 58 in the process groups practice guide. Now, if we have a sequence of activities which make up the shortest possible duration for the project completion, what is that? That is our critical path. It's critical because we can't move anything, because it's the shortest duration we can possibly figure out to finish the project in. The amount of time an activity can be delayed without affecting its successor activity, that is the free float of that activity. How far can we float it if we need to? Now, the amount of time an activity can be delayed and still keep the whole project on schedule, that is our total float. So free float and total float. And the date when major items will occur are milestones when things are going to be delivered, and the project days that are available for scheduled activities. So do we have any days off or holidays? Do we not work weekends, or do we only work 2 days a week? What are those things? Let's put those on our project calendar. And that's from a process groups practice guide, page 262, under the critical path method, which is really, really handy to know. Now, how do we plan scope? Let's have a look here. First thing we always do in any situation is create our plan for how we're going to manage it. So we create our scope management plan. Now, the next thing we need to do is collect the requirements, or elicit or gather the requirements from our stakeholders or customers, so that we know what they want and what we need to deliver. Then we need to, what do we need to do next? create the scope statement. That's that high level, with the high level statement with a list of high level features. Then we can break that down with our work breakdown structure. So we're going to break that down into smaller and smaller pieces that a person can work on. And what's that called? That's called a work package. But we do that last because before that we need our work breakdown structure dictionary, and that has all of the extra attributes, remember, like resources needed, the time estimates, or the cost estimates for those work packages. And then at the end, we have that final list of work packages. And there it is. Excellent. Process groups and management phases under page 22 to look at that process. Very, very handy to have. And of course, once we've planned and gathered and collected our scope, then we can look at planning our schedule and figuring out how we're going to do that. And remember, the first thing we do is planning out how we're going to manage our schedule. Who does what? What are the steps that we're going to take? What's our schedule management plan? Now, what do we need to do next? Probably create the list of activities based on the scope and the milestones. Then we want to sequence those activities. So do they have any dependencies? Now, once we know that, we can estimate the activity durations. And we've already looked at a few estimating methods, which is really, really great. And right at the end, we have our approved schedule, which becomes our baselined schedule. So then it needs to go through a change request in order to change it if we're in a predictive way of work. Just a few little extra bits of information. Oh, that's always a good bit of fun. Page 58 under schedules, and the last two in this little section, you're doing an amazing job. First, second, third, fourth, and fifth under project integration. The first thing we do is our project. Oh, no, hang on. I nearly got caught there. Business case. So we need a feasibility study. Is the project going to deliver value? Is it worth doing in the first place? That's our business case. Then we initiate our project with a project charter. The project sponsor signs off on it and gives us access to funding and resources. Then we create our project management plan, and we plan out all of those things like we just saw previously, and a few extra things: procurement, risk, communications, resources. And as we go through the project, we need to access and use our project management information system. And that could be anything. That could be a system like Jira or Microsoft Project or Monday.com or any of those things. And lastly, we're going to close off the phase or the project with our final report so that everyone is on the same page. And there we are, page 288 or 211 under final report and project management information system in the process groups practice guide. Wonderful stuff and well done. Last one here. And why did they have to give us calculations for the last one? Oh, that's a bit harsh. Okay, but here is actually, you know what? It's actually pretty good because I can tell you a little trick here. And the trick is with all of these things, if we've got the cost performance index or the schedule performance index, those two things, one is how much we should have delivered at this exact point in time. If it's greater than one, we have delivered more, and that's for both of these. If it's less than one, we have delivered less. So let's have a look. Cost performance index is 1.2, so we've delivered more than what we should have at this point in time. So we are under our budget because we've delivered more. So project is under budget. There we go. Nice and easy. But the schedule performance index is 0.8. So we've delivered less than what we should have at this point in time. The project is behind its schedule. Now it's the same for the cost variance and schedule variance, except the number is 0. So if it's less than 50 for cost variance, we're going to be over our budget because we've delivered less. So that's very handy to know. And schedule variance is over 0. So we've delivered more, which means our project is ahead of schedule. And so we'll just get rid of that and double check this, make sure that that is correct. And that has come through, which is really, really good. That was actually good to know. So I'm glad we did finish with that one. And I'm also glad that you're here practicing and improving your knowledge every single day to pass your PMP exam and get better at project management. Project management delivering value and really making change and doing great things in the world. It's such an important skill, and you're learning it and growing and improving and getting even better skills that will help you deliver that value. I cannot think of a better way to spend my time. Maybe I need to get out more, but I think you're doing a fantastic job, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.